Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. Am I the only one talking?
To the republic.
Okay, I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
For
for
which it stands,
stands one nation,
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
justice
for all.
for all. Roll call.
Yeah. Chisel. Neal. Emily.
Yes.
Roll call. Yes. Here. Aye.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Zittergrun.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Luce.
Here.
All present and accounted for, Mayor.
Okay, public comment. We've got Northeast Iowa Humane Society report with Kim Powell, and I can see that she's here and accounted for.
Yes, hi. Thanks everyone for giving us an opportunity to talk with you. I had sent Chad a letter, kind of a brief report and update that you should have there. But most of all, we want to thank you for your past financial support for HSNEI. It's kind of hard to believe. I remember the first time we went and asked for your support many years ago, and we're now starting our 7th year in December in operation. And typically we're helping around 400 animals every year, but kind of surprisingly, during this year of COVID, we've had over 500 animals come through the shelter, which, given that we've had to cancel some fundraisers due to COVID, it's really stressed our resources. So your help is even more appreciated. Then we've been up to 160 cats and kittens in our care at one time. Not all at the shelter. We've had foster families come in. So we're not sure if people, because of COVID, were home more and finding litters of kittens or what the situation is, but it's really been a busy year. We've always been a no-kill organization. So we're very committed to finding homes for all these animals that come through our care after we spend the money to get them spayed and neutered, vaccinations, and we started last year microchipping every animal before they leave our doors, in hopes that if they do get lost from their owner, it's easier to reunite them with their family. So that's been a nice service to provide to people. And we continue to be an area for volunteering. Volunteer numbers have been down a bit during COVID, but we've worked out a system. People sign up, so there aren't many people in the building at one time. And so those numbers have started coming back up again, which is great for us to be a site for volunteerism in the community. So I'm open if anybody has any questions or comments, but essentially we're still doing our work, still being successful helping animals, and are thankful for your support.
Council people, what kind of questions, comments you might have for Kim?
Kim, have you seen an uptick in people surrendering their animals because of COVID, where they just can't take care of them because of financial reasons? Has that happened at all?
It happens, but not at, we expected those numbers to go way up and they just haven't. Actually, we've adopted out more animals this year than before, which is also probably because of COVID, right? People were home, they wanted a companion in their home. We have worried that more surrenders were going to happen, but it just hasn't yet.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's awesome. Just thank you so much for your work.
Yep.
And the work of the Humane Society and the Adoption Center, and especially also for helping reunite lost and wandering pets in our area. It's a great resource and a real comfort when you lose your pet and you know that they're being cared for when they lose their way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's very nice to see people get back with their animals for sure.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that. Thanks for the service you provide our community and people and pets alike. So thank you.
Yep, thanks. I'll pass it on to all the staff.
How many staff do you have?
So we currently have 2 full-time staff, an executive director and an operations director, and 4-ish part-time staff. I say ish because we also work with Luther College's work study program. So
Okay.
we can hire people for a much reduced rate because of the work study program, and they come and go with obviously the college when we're in session and not.
Sure. Well, thank you for all your work in the organizing and the successfulness of having that in our community. I appreciate you coming before the city council.
Great. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Kim.
Is there
Thank you, Kim.
else
Thanks, Kim.
is there anyone else who wishes to come before the council for any items that are not on this agenda? Nope, see any in the windows that I have, so we'll move on. Consent agenda.
Consent agenda consists of minutes of the November 2nd, 2020 regular meeting, claims, renewal Class B hotel motel license for Hotel Winneshiek, including outdoor service area, Sunday sales, and catering privileges. Consider appointment to the Regional Planning Association Area 1 Policy Committee, alternate, which would be the city manager. Consider C3 Commercial Design Review, 228 East Water Street, Beautistry by Eileen, sign, facade, paint, and awnings. Consider C3 Commercial Design Review, 101 East Water Street, Broker Leather, sign relocation. Consider C3 Commercial Design Review, 110 Washington Street, Unique Precision Brow Studio, new and replacement signs. Consider C3 Commercial Design Review, 104 West Water Street, Silver Birch, new sign. Resolution 3136, authorizing the submission of applications for FAA Federal Airport Improvement Program, AIP Federal Fiscal Year 2022, CIP, and certifying eligibility requirements. And Resolution 3137, authorizing installation of traffic control and speed limit devices on Locust Road.
I'd move the consent agenda.
This is Steve Zittergren. I just have a quick question, and it's this: if I had just a question or clarification about the consent agenda, would I need to remove something to ask that question, or could I just ask for some clarification without removing it from the agenda?
I think if it's just a question of content or what this means, you can just ask that question. If you want further discussion that may result in a different action, then you would remove it.
Thanks. So could you outline more what you would do or what you do in this role on the Upper Iowa Explorerland Commission? I couldn't make sense of that on the background material.
Yep. So the Upper Explorerland Regional Planning Commission serves as our transportation planning organization and is a conduit for federal funding, state transportation and federal highway funding dollars. And there's 2 committees that help govern the allocation of those funds and set up the work improvement plans. One of them is a policy committee, and the policy committees are staffed or seated by the bylaws of the regional COG, and those are the mayors. But as an alternate, the city needs to appoint an alternate, and traditionally that's been the city manager. So typically what happens, and then the second committee is the technical committee, and that's usually made up of city engineers and then an alternate. And so basically what happens is that the policy committee, because it's made up of elected officials, mayors, and board of supervisor members, they kind of decide what programs and what policies will direct the funds. And then the city and county engineers make up the technical committee, and they kind of work through the programming and scheduling of when those funds might fall within certain projects within cities and counties.
I appreciate the background. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I have a motion, and I think I heard a couple seconds, but
I had a motion by Luce and a second by Carlson.
okay. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Chisel.
I'm assuming he said aye too.
Does he have his
Oh,
mic
yeah, sorry.
on?
He said aye. Motion carried.
Okay. Consider fiscal year 2022 street improvement plan.
So the street committee, well, maybe more importantly, through a council work session, discussed the street improvement plan for fiscal 22, as presented by Jeremy, and some conversation about a couple different options. And so Jeremy's kind of reworked that plan and submitted it. It's in the Dropbox. I'll let Ross and Jeremy kind of discuss, but basically the plan stayed the same, with the two options being spending more effort and funding on East Main, or spending more money and effort on Pole Line Road, recognizing that they're both kind of a top priority and they're both have a place in the plan. But I think the two options kind of look at one priority over the other. So Jeremy or Ross, further comment?
Well, Jeremy and I were speaking about it, and I think the one that floated to the top for me was East Main, and it was mostly because of input from Todd regarding water and infrastructure work that we needed, whether we needed to do it or not, whether the project was feasible. It's been on the laundry list for years and years and years, and I would just love to see it removed, even though we can't do the entire East Main. But I'll let him give the background on it.
Can you share what you're talking about with the water? And then I have a question about it, but go ahead and be more detailed with the water.
Yeah, I was going to let Jeremy do it because he actually had the conversation with Todd.
Yeah, this is Jeremy. Yeah, so as Ross mentioned, one of our challenges with East Main Street is the infrastructure underneath the street. The water main is a 4-inch main, which is undersized, and it's what we'll call original, so 100+ years old, I'd say. And so since we are planning as part of this project to tear up the street, to be a removal and replacement, seems an opportune time to replace the water underneath. We talked about the sanitary sewer as well. We feel that maybe there's some things we could do without having to do a full replacement of that. But the water, the challenge with East Main has always been, we can fund the street, but how do we fund the necessary water improvements? Because that of course contributes to the cost. So that's why this one was my recommendation as well. I don't know another opportunity where we can do as much as we can anyway, both on the street and with the water. And so I won't speak for Todd, but he and I did talk about this, and think it's appropriate time to do the water, excuse me, be able to do the water in addition to the street improvements.
And Emily, I know Pole Line was on your hope. It's not that we're forgetting about Pole Line. It's just that corner of North College and Pole Line. It would be good to take a better look at that, and then also potentially doing it with a concrete overlay versus full concrete or asphalt for truck.
Yeah, no, it's not Pole Line that's on my hope list. It's actually, I want Steyer to be sooner than it is. It's Steyer Bridge that I'm most concerned about. So when I wrote notes this afternoon, maybe I messed up, but if we do East Main, does that mean that Steyer is done later?
No, Steyer is in the same year.
It's in the same year, and there's no way to make Steyer happen sooner than 2022, 23.
It's fiscal year 22, so it'll be a next year project.
Oh, so it'll happen in the summer.
Correct.
Isn't that 2021?
Yeah, but fiscal July.
2022.
Okay, so it'll happen next summer regardless of which one we do.
Yes, in both plans, we have Steyer Bridge happening next summer.
Okay. That's fine with me, because I'm not convinced on Pole Line what we need to do there. So it seems to me we know exactly what we need to on East Main, but it was more of, I was interested in making sure Steyer was a priority. And of course, I have to give a shout out for Pleasant Hill. If there's any way to fill some of that, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out for my ward's street. Although East Maine's in my ward too.
Jeremy, can I ask if you have, quote, ballpark idea of the extra cost for the East Main water?
We estimate, Steve, that water is about $90,000 per block for a full replacement. Sewer probably similar. So that, again, the challenge when you're looking at one block of street paving at 300,000 plus another 180 to do water and sewer. That's where it's challenging to do more than two to three blocks in a year, which is why this extra bond money allows us to knock some of that off. So those are very rough numbers, but those get us in the ballpark per block on a per block basis.
I was just looking at the reserve fund at 50% is the goal. And the pole line option actually allowed us to be above our goal for a longer period of time. So that was one consideration I was looking at. Although I understand the desire to handle a block of the water sewer, it seems to me we're not going to be able to get past this without thinking of more bonding for the rest of it sooner than later.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. And I would say one of the reasons that maybe that reserve was allowed to get a little lower is that we do anticipate hopefully in the next year or two, we'll start to recuperate some of the assessments from the Bruning project, which is not included in here. So that's really why why I kind of let it go a little bit lower than maybe we're comfortable with. But actually both plans by the end of the 4 years are almost, I think, exactly the same reserve percentage.
I noticed that.
And we'll have the money coming in, the split from the Alliant franchise fee that's not calculated in the reserve balance.
But that is a replacement, though, just to remind you, that is a replacement, so it really is calculated in the total because it's just a remove and replace.
Well, but lost is 1% and the other one's a 1.5, right?
No, your franchise fee is at 2%, but you've pledged 1% to go right back into lost to make up for the 1% you would lose from lost.
Yeah, but that's for a year, right? And then it's going back up. I mean, it'll go up. So it's 2%. And then I thought in July, we're going up to 3%.
Yes, but you've still only pledged the 1% to go back into lost. You're not pledging all of that money to go into lost.
No, the Alliant franchise fee was split between half between sustainability and half to street.
Yeah, it was going to be half no matter what it was. So 4% streets, we're going to get 2%.
Oh, I didn't understand that. I thought it was 1% to replace.
No, we can go back to the notes at the work session at the library.
It was half and half.
Other council people, was that your understanding? Half and half?
I don't recall.
I honestly don't either, but that sounds correct.
I know there was discussion about the 1% replacing, or increasing it so to make sure that 1% wasn't lost, but I don't know the 50-50 comment.
Well, so here's what I would recommend on that. So we can certainly go back and look at the notes and see what the discussion was, but the time for you really to make that policy will be during this budget process, right? Because that's when you'll really have the bulk of the funds. You're getting some of it now, 6 months, but next year in the budget that we'll just be starting to figure out here is when you'll have the full year. So we would ask you to make that make your wishes known during that budget cycle.
Okay, but
I voted for the franchise agreement.
So did I.
Based on this. So this is
That's
not
fine.
optional to me.
Yeah, we'll go back and look at the notes and we'll pull that information out. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just telling you, you're going to have a chance to solidify it in the budget when the budget process starts.
I get that, but I did, like Russ, to be clear, that vote was made with that intention.
Well, it's easy enough to go back and check and see you know, what was listed. And then, like Chad said, to make sure that that's voiced during the budget session.
Confirmed during the budget session.
Yes, sorry about that. So what, you've got this as considered fish, is it just a matter of, there's no action that's taken on this tonight, it's just a consideration of going with East Water?
No, Mayor, usually the council will vote on the plan.
Okay, so it's applicable to vote, so we can get a motion and second on this?
This is Steve Zittergren. Can I ask just one more question about the pole line option? I mean, if we were to proceed with the East Main option instead of pole line, would we be missing out on potential cost savings from doing multiple projects on pole line road at the same time? Does that question make sense? I think it's probably directed to Jeremy.
Yeah, that's a good question. We've looked at that. So to be clear, I think both these plans include improvements on both streets. It's just a matter of what are those improvements? Is it concrete or is it a combination of some overlays and some reconstruction? I think the timing of the bridge construction it would make sense to do some of the street. I think given the users along the street, particularly the bus barn, we're going to have to time that pretty perfectly so we're not creating more issues. So we're almost leaning towards perhaps at least part of the street, splitting this over 2 seasons anyway. But I do think there would be some opportunity to do some of the work on the street, perhaps between the bridge and the highway. But I think that could be done. That would probably be more of an overlay type of improvement if we went with the East Main option. So I think that's a question we'll need to answer once we get a little bit more into the numbers here. But pretty sensitive to at least all of the users of the street and trying to coordinate access. It'll be a little bit of a challenge here depending on the timing of the bridge project.
And Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong,
Question,
the bridge contractor and the road contractor aren't necessarily the same thing. Like, for example, with Oneota Drive Bridge, our bridge contractor wasn't a paving contractor, correct?
That's correct. It all fell under one general contractor, and who he had or who they had for their sub was really up to them. For the bridge project, which will bid in February and start likely in May or June, it will end up paving about 25% of that whole stretch simply because it's a bigger structure. Because of the hydraulics, it's actually getting raised about 1 foot. And so as you tie that back into your existing street, you end up replacing a fair amount of the street. So that will happen as part of the bridge project. So the question is, what do we do with the remaining 75%? But yeah, Ross, my guess would be the bridge builder will not be the street paver. For Oneota Drive, you have Brennan's as the bridge builder and Wicks as the paver. Those contractors work together often. There are some that do everything, but I'd expect a similar situation.
But just to Steve Zittergren's point, mobilization cost, the savings necessarily wouldn't be there if it was just a contiguous road project versus a bridge and a road.
To me, it would make more sense when you already got the detour for the bridge to do.
Could you, Randy, can you turn your microphone on, please?
I'm red.
No, you're not on.
Yeah.
You just got to talk into it.
Okay. To me, it would make more sense while you got the detour for the bridge to begin with out there to do the road right away and then do the road if you want to use it for a truck route in concrete, not an overlay, so that it holds up with the heavier equipment.
As I stated that on the last time we talked about this, I would agree with what Randy said.
I would agree too.
Me too.
Emily, if you're in mute, there you go.
So
Wait,
make a motion to table this.
so I can talk. Okay.
Now
I
you
was-
can, you were muted.
I was gonna, I guess there's a part of me that thinks that East Main is, I agree with Ross in the fact that East Main needs some work and we've got the money right now to do something extra. It's going to be an expensive project, and it might be a project that we have to piece together when we find these extras. It's the heart of our town, and it's in really bad shape in a way that pole line is not.
And pole line, my concern is the intersection of North College and pole line, whether or not it's a good intersection for a truck route. I know that's the concept, and that's why we're doing the bridge, but I'm not sure that, I'm just not sure that that we're not putting the chicken before the egg or the cart before the horse, whatever cliche you want to use. That's why I was shooting for East Main, so that we could have North College looked at and pole line intersection at the same time.
I want to interject one thing about East Main, and that is several years ago, that was discussed as a potential bike boulevard where we would discourage a little more motor traffic there and encourage the traffic to go on Water and Broadway and make it a little bit, I guess, a less traveled neighborhood street. And I'm just wondering if any consideration has been given to that notion, because I think it's time to at least look at that and to dismiss it or adopt it. I think it might be worthy of at least some consideration, whether the neighborhood would accept that kind of change or not. That's all.
Well, I'd have to say too, Kirk, with the speed and the amount of traffic, even though the speed on Water is posted, it's never followed at that. And then the amount of speed we have on Broadway, it seems like East Main would be the stretch to be more friendly for alternate modes of transportation.
Well, and it certainly could be addressed. That's just an engineering, that's an engineering concept. And we could certainly bring it forth and change parking on one side. But we're not going to do it unless we repave.
I make a recommendation that we table it. I feel like this needs to go. Now that we have two options, and I hate to do that to you, Ross, and you can argue if you want to, I'm just wondering if we need to just take this back to streets to talk about, as it seems like now we've got option 1 and option 2, but a bunch of questions about what we actually want to do with the roads.
Well, no offense, but we've had option 1 and option 2 for a while, and everybody had this in the Dropbox for a while. And, my goal for the street committee was that we get this done by Thanksgiving, because the mayor in past had been questioning why we didn't have decisions made. So I'm sensitive to a timing so that we can get survey work and engineering done. And I know it's taking time, but we have a short council meeting tonight, and we don't have a lot of work sessions before the end of the year. If people want to just vote, but if they need to talk, I'm happy to talk, but I'd like to get it done.
Well, just for the record, I did mention this prior to tonight. This isn't the first time I brought up the bike boulevard idea. I think it's just simply been, it is a good idea to discuss and to look at, but it hasn't ever been seriously considered by this group.
But even if it's a bike boulevard, we still have to do the water, right? So we'd still have to pull up the street to fix the water mains. Is that a fair assumption?
There are a couple of things have to be done. Just a couple of mini roundabouts have to be placed in appropriate spots. And of course, the neighborhood needs to be consulted about those kinds of changes, because they may not like the idea that they can't just blast, one way or the other down Main Street. There'll be some traffic calming that would benefit the neighborhood, I think, but some of the folks may not quite grasp, what that change would mean for their area.
Isn't there already almost a stop sign every block there?
Just about.
And the street itself makes you want to go slow, so you can't blast on East Main. Maybe we should leave the street.
But with a bike boulevard, you can remove the signs and let traffic just flow, and so it could help in some instances get people where they're going quicker.
And to the point of, we have lots of plans, but we don't pick it and do it. This plan for a bike boulevard on East Main was done in 2008. I think, when they brought somebody in, and that's when the Sharrows and things went down too.
It wasn't, no one well, we did bring in some people to guide us, but we had a small committee that recommended at least consideration of that change. And, it was, it's just that if you're going to reconstruct that street, now is the time to determine if you're going to do that or not. Because once we do Main Street, it's done for the next 50 or 100 years. So I think the reason that Main was selected was because it's a nice route from downtown to the Trout Run Trail access over by the fairgrounds. That's why it was sort of selected. But there are other ways to get to the Trout Run Trail as well. It's just, how do you want to direct traffic in the future and make it safe? And also, if you want to calm traffic in that neighborhood, this is the time to do it. Like I said, we have Broadway, we have Water Street. Do we need 3 thoroughfares, around that neighborhood? I don't know. I guess it might be a traffic count thing. Maybe it's necessary to keep it wide open and to keep it available for trucks. But I'm not sure. It's just something that needs to be talked about and considered by the engineer.
I guess I heard 4 council persons say they were in favor of going ahead with pull line first.
No. Is that accurate? I guess it would depend upon your vote, if you're going to go do a vote or take it back. I heard people saying taking it back too, so.
I heard the response to that was we need to get a decision made by Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay if we decide tonight. I'm not, I think I still lean towards East Main. I think I think we have to take some responsibility and do some work in town
Well,
as well as out of
if
town.
you choose East Main, then you include the discussion with, when you're formulating that East Main piece too. So.
I'm attracted to the idea of, syncing up all the work on Pole Line Road at the same time. But I'm, if what Ross has said that he'd like more time for the committee to really figure out what they want to do there is accurate, I don't think we should be pushing ahead there. That's it. Maybe I'm not understanding Ross's point about that. But and follow up on that, if we did the work on Pole Line Road, if we just had the bridge done on Pole Line Road in this upcoming season, is that the bottleneck to making that a truck route, or do we need to wait until there's concrete all along the road? Does that question make sense?
The bridge isn't weighted right now to be able to handle trucks, Steve.
Right, I'm aware of that. But if once the bridge is fixed, even though it's still old asphalt, can that become a truck route, or do we need to do further improvements to the road?
So I can answer this as Jeremy. We don't need to be full concrete to be a truck route. I think we would propose, both plans propose improvements on pole line. And even today, I don't know if you could call it a true truck route per DOT design standards today, but any improvement that we would do, if that's a full concrete reconstruction or reconstruction combined with some overlays, would be designed to handle trucks.
So just to be clear, as soon as we do that bridge, it can be a truck route.
Yes, but I do think you'd want to do some of the street improvements as well.
Pole Line Street, or what street you're talking, Britt?
Talking about pole line.
Oh, I know. Yep.
This is Steve again. The street improvements you're talking about, would they necessarily have to happen right away? If trucks are, using the road heavily next year, and we're scheduling to replace everything the year following, that seems like it wouldn't be a big deal. Is that accurate?
I would say yes. I think trucks go on that today. And I can't say. I'd have to do some more investigating to see how many trucks truly go that way. I don't know that there's a high number.
Well, so then the other truth, if Ross is correct that we don't know what kind of truck route that would make based on the turn there, one would have to be concerned is if we invest a whole bunch of money into concrete overlay into Pole Line Road without actually knowing that can be a truck route, that makes me a little nervous as well.
I
Well,
guess
it's
that's
still-
that's
this
why
is-
I would go with the engineer and vote on East Main.
Well, I know, I mean,
Oh,
This
it
is,
is.
this is Chad. So, making improvements on Pole Line Road, I mean, it still makes it whether it's a truck route or not, it still makes it a, 75-year road, depending on how you do it, right? Still 50 to 75-year road. And it could be a truck route for 10 years and then something else happens and you have a different route, up north, and all of a sudden, 25, 30 years from now, it's not a truck route anymore because there's something else. But you've still made the significant investment to improve the road, for a lifetime. The other comment I would make about East Main is that, because East Main is so expensive, because there's utilities involved, you can tackle East Main in a multi-year approach, doing a couple of blocks as you can and as funds are available, and have it done over a multi-year period of time and do it the way you want to do it.
so actually,
But haven't
go ahead, Ross.
for the last 30 years. So case in point.
So I am, Jeremy, just to be clear, you stare at our streets more than anyone else. Quite honestly, you're the expert on our streets. How would you advise? What would you prefer?
My recommendation is East Main, simply because of the challenges that the reason it happened for decades, I think, is because of the water. So yes, we can do it in over multi-years, but the problem is with water and sewer, it's $400,000 plus a block. So with $1 million budget, you can't do very many blocks, even on a 5-block street. So, frankly, to me, this is a year ahead. So I'll be tickled no matter what we do. If I had to choose one, I'd push it towards East Main.
I'd make a motion to approve the 2020 street plan with the East Main option.
That's option 1.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by O'Neill. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Chisel,
No.
Carlson,
No.
Zittergrun,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
and Luce.
No?
Okay, it looks like the motion carried 4-3. Okay, consider a site plan reference 1600 Prosperity Road, Rush Holdings LLC, accessory structure to a commercial building. You have black background on that?
Little background on this. This is a warehouse facility. It's approximately 54 feet by 200 feet for Rush Holdings or Toppling Goliath out in the business park as an accessory to their main structure. It's a fairly simple design for the most part. It builds this building on the lot that they already have. Some minor alterations for parking, a loading dock area, and then some existing utility taps for water and sewer for a small work area or restroom facilities in the building. Staff is still working through some of the utility connections, but otherwise, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval. And I know the Decorah Jobs Incorporated Site Review Committee also recommends approval. Basically looking at the covenants in the business park and have acknowledged that the plan appears to meet the covenants as established by Decorah Jobs. So P&Z recommends approval of the site plan for the accessory structure.
I'd move for approval of the site plan.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion?
I had a question. I couldn't tell if is the building actually connected to the present building?
It is not connected.
That's what I wondered.
There's a driveway parking lot area with a loading dock that might make it appear to be connected, but it's not connected.
So the blue lines on the drawing aren't structure, they're just lines, like for the driveway or something?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, no further discussion, roll call.
Chisel,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Yes.
Johnson, Neal,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider approval and certification of 2020 residential tax abatement applications for Susan and Daryl Ballantyne at 2356 Shagbark Lane Road. Do we do these separately or together?
No, you can do them together.
Okay. Jackson and Amy Hayek at 1504 Locust Road.
I'd move for approval of the 2020 residential tax abatement applications.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick question. I certainly, well, I guess my question is just this: is there ever a time where we talk about the desirability of how long? I mean, is this the only chance that we have to talk about whether this is something we want to, continue, or is there, is there a process every year where we commit to doing this for another year?
Yeah, Steve, good question. There is a process where the council will consider the program annually. Generally, what's happened is sometime in May or June, the council has talked about the program and discussed its merits, and at that time, generally have agreed to continue the program for the next calendar year. So, for example, in May or June of 2020, the council agreed to run the program through 2021. Now, council can change that any time, but that is the cycle that the council's kind of been on in the last couple of years.
And just to give you some background, Steve, we do have a desire in the sustainability plan to think about how we're doing abatements. We just have not, and part of that is tied into getting a building code passed, which is the hope for the building code inspector. So I would say that this is sort of within the strategic plan of hiring a building code inspector, getting some building codes, and then thinking about what our abatement plan looks like.
And I'll just add, the reason for the delay, the 1 year delay, is so that homeowners and contractors specifically will know what to expect a year down the road.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't like showing any hesitancy about honoring kind of the soft commitment that we've already made. I just wanted to know what the process was for conversations down the road, because I voted on this thing 3 times now. I want to make sure that it's not just this every month until until
Yeah, no,
the end of the year.
This is Chad. Yeah, so just administratively, the way I handle these, because the really the only important benchmark is that they're certified as eligible by the council to the county assessor before January 1. And so I tend to hold the applications all year long, and then I bring them in October. And then, of course, what's happened is, and that's why in October you saw, the bulk of them. But then now here through the end of November and December, you get the last couple that kind of trickle in. But the key benchmark is that they get certified to the county assessor before January 1.
Thanks, everyone.
So we have a motion by Chisel and a second by Carlson on that action.
Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Hadley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Okay. City manager, department heads, and council reports.
Just a couple of things from the city manager's office. First thing is that I did send out to the council, we received as a city, the downtown assessment, downtown resource assessment in the last week or so, and I did send that out to council. So I would ask that the council consider that document and a couple of things. Number one, I'd like to talk to the council and the mayor about how we now share that document with our many boards and commissions and organizations throughout the community, so that we can start to build a conversation about the recommendations offered by the Resource Center in that planning document. And then also to have a conversation at the council level about some of the findings in the document and what the council's and ultimately the city's response to some of those recommendations might be. So you have that. I would encourage feedback and some guidance on how we present it and how we talk about it now as a community. So I would pause here for a minute for any quick initial comments, but this is a conversation for a later time. Hearing none, I'll move on. I reminded the staff we received some information on the Winnebago County Community Foundation workshops coming up. They actually have a grant writing workshop tomorrow, and this next year's round of grants through the foundation will be coming shortly. I think they come out in December or January. So that information is out there. Budget season is upon us, and I know Wanda is working hard on some of that. I'll let her talk about that. There are department head reports in your packet. I think most of the department heads are on Zoom. There's a couple here, but I think most of them have submitted reports in your Dropbox. And then finally, I think just to give you a quick update on staff hires, we have 2 new individuals hired in the street department, and we're very happy to have them. And nobody's probably happier than I am to report that we have a new code compliance officer starting in December as well. So thank you for the council for that support. I'll let Jeremy talk about his street guys, but Greg Swanson is our code compliance officer, our building official, and he'll be starting in early December. So with that, I'll move it along.
Wanda.
I don't have a lot to report on the budget yet, just doing a lot of preliminary work that needs to be done as we start to really get into the budget season. Working on re-estimates right now. And like I said, there's a lot of setup and preliminary work that needs to be done as we move forward. So.
Okay. I know Kristen gave an update at department heads as far as the library. Was there anything else? You've got something in the Dropbox as well. Anything else you'd like to offer?
No, I think everything I have was in my Dropbox report, but I'm always happy to answer any questions or check in with anybody if you want to reach out to me via phone or email.
Okay. Let's see, the other one was Jeremy. Do you want to give an update on Locust Road and some of the other projects? Those are in the Dropbox too, I'm sure.
Yeah, have a report in the Dropbox, but just real quickly, Locust Road, dare I say it, we're on the home stretch here, which is great. And the Pinecrest intersection will be open this week. I know we get a lot of questions about that, but yeah, the week of Monday or the week of November 16th doesn't necessarily mean November 16th. So lesson learned there that I won't put a date next time. But yeah, all the paving is complete with the exception of a few driveway approaches and sidewalks. So we have pavement markings, sign installation, backfilling, street lights, and then the utilities getting into the joint utility trench. So I'm hopeful in the next couple of weeks, we'll all get to drive on Locust Road. Otherwise, I can answer any questions about the other projects. Everything is moving along well. We get another good week of weather here. We'll make a lot of progress. But yeah, as far as the hires, again, like Chad said, thank you for your support. New assistant street commissioner is Cole Milligan. Comes to us from Truck Country, where he's a service advisor and warranty manager. He could be a great addition. And then the new assistant city engineer, Tom Rhodes, has actually been working for the Kansas DOT for 10 years. So he'll bring a lot of valuable experience. So very excited, as is Chad, I think, to bring these folks on board. So thank you again for your support.
Great. Does council have any other questions from departments at all? Seeing none, we'll go to Randy. Hello? Does Randy have anything to report?
I forgot to turn this thing on.
Okay.
Wanda and I will continue to work on the calendar so we can try and get it out in December so that people can get on their calendars for when we're going to do our budget meetings.
Okay. Thank you. Steve Luce.
I would encourage everyone to go ahead and read the downtown assessment report and be thinking about what your preferences are as to which way we go. And I had mentioned to Chad previously that I would like for us to get that to the community organizations and give them the same homework I gave you, for them to talk about what they think is the direction to go, what their emphasis is, which of the plans that we've had in the past that we're encouraged to come up and do something, which one they, would like to be at the forefront. And then there were some other things in there about how we are going to have not so many directions of groups going, but how we're going to focus all together to accomplish. So I'm excited about that potential. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, thanks, Steve. Let's see, Steve Zittergrun.
Thank you. I did read the downtown assessment, and the thing that Chad's been highlighting and emphasizing, and what Steve just mentioned, is certainly the thing that resonated the most with me, that there's so much good energy, there's so many good visions, there's so many good ideas. I've spent a lot of the last month reading really cool, looking at pretty pictures of what Decorah, could look like if we had a lot more money. And it's really exciting to read all that stuff. But I appreciate the downtown assessment's clear message that there needs to be a unicity of focus and vision. And I think that starts with this organization, with this council. So that's certainly something that I'm glad to see is becoming a point of focus for us. And the other thing is just in terms of leadership coming from the top, COVID numbers are spiking around here. It's actually affecting my family's plans for the next couple of weeks in terms of gathering, and in terms of my wife's work schedule. I know that at the hospital they're starting to feel the pressures of too many staff people out on quarantine. And I know that local hospitals that we normally would be transferring patients to aren't quite so receptive to some of that increasingly. And that's just to say that in our position as leadership in the city and as elected officials, we have a responsibility to support our healthcare community, our essential workers, and the people on the front line by demonstrating the kinds of behaviors that we're encouraging all Decorah residents to demonstrate: masking, social distancing, avoiding large indoor gatherings. And it's much more serious now than it was a few months ago, partially because maybe some of us didn't take it seriously enough a few months ago.
Thank you. Ross Hadley.
Nothing, Mayor.
Thank you. Andy Carlson.
Yes, Steve, you beat me to it. I was actually going to talk about COVID and just the fact that we're kind of reaching a breaking point. Just make a plea to the general public to please be safe, be smart, follow the rules that have been set in place. We don't want to overburden not just our local hospital, but like Steve said, some of those major hospitals are starting to really feel the effects. And I have some family members in the healthcare industry too, and they're working shifts that they normally wouldn't work, and they're working long hours because people are out. And in the schools, even, we're starting to see teachers that are, I have a 4-year-old right now who's quarantining, so I had to stay home today, and my wife's staying home the rest of the week. So just really, I don't know how we can impress upon people that we really need people to make smart decisions at this point.
Andy, just real quick, according to the Des Moines Register, the governor issued a mandatory mask mandate at 6 o'clock tonight.
Okay.
Awesome. Good to know. Thanks for telling me that.
Ages 2 years old and up.
Good to hear.
And let me just say, it's just about time, isn't it?
Wow. That's what I'm going to say.
The text of the proclamation on DecorahNews.com.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Kurt Johnson.
Nothing,
Okay.
Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Emily Neal.
I have a couple things, Mayor. And I actually meant to talk to you and Steve earlier, but I'm just going to throw it at Steve. So I had a couple meetings with the Human Rights Commission this past week, and they are they're working through some things that makes them think that they maybe want to look at their mission and values. And that got me thinking that when Johanna was head of community betterment, we've been talking for my time on the council, and I know she'd been talking on it before that, about what it would look like for Decorah to think about having a mission statement and value statement. But I think that the HRC, in realizing how they're supposed to be doing their work, isn't working the way that they intended, and they want to make their bylaws and the direction that they're going actually fit with what they can do within our community. So they want to redo that structure. And I think they would benefit from discussion at a community betterment meeting with council. And so I was hoping, Steve, this may be unknown to you, but Johanna was head of community betterment, so that would be you at this point. And so I was wondering if we could actually schedule a community betterment meeting in the next few weeks to meet with HRC to discuss some of these things with more than just me as a council member.
Yeah, I'm certainly, it sounds like I can choose to do that. Is that what you're implying?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I knew that this was Johanna's committee. I guess I know that we've been doing as much work as we can to get me on board and up to speed on things, but I wasn't aware. I thought these things just showed up on the schedule automatically. So that's good to know that I have to do it. Yeah, I'll talk to someone about that. Thanks.
Yeah, and we can do it together. I'm on that committee too, I believe. I think I am. And then my other question about community betterment is, if we're going to have a community betterment meeting, is that the place where we would like to talk more in depth about the downtown assessment report, or do we want to have an economic committee meeting, or do we want to use it as a work session? And I was just thinking, let's schedule when we're going to actually talk about it. It gives people deadlines, and I think it's something we should keep at the forefront of our work.
I know today we will have a work session on November 30th. And I know that today Chad and I were talking about, at least initially, having a discussion about the report. So that would be at least a place to start, and then figure out how to work,
You're suggesting the 5th Monday, Mayor, as opposed to the 4th?
No, let me look. I bet I looked at the wrong. What's the 5th Monday?
Well, we usually have it on the 4th. Yeah, we usually have.
Oh, it's the 23rd. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thanks.
Yes, Emily, I do think it's an important part of the Economic Development Committee work. So I'm very much in favor of having that discussion in the next work session.
So we'll kind of at least start out with that piece. So,
very good.
Yep.
Okay.
Wait, I had two more things real quick.
I'm sorry.
One was, I echo what Steve was saying about COVID, and certainly for our hospitals. I also know that it's the holiday season, and I really encourage people to shop locally downtown. There's some really amazing things happening downtown. Lots of great things that you can purchase locally. And I do think at times like these that it's really important that we stick together and support each other as much as we can. And so even for keeping our local businesses open during this really important shopping season, I think that mask mandate becomes even more important. We don't want our businesses shut. We want to have their doors wide open, and we want to be filling our Christmas cheer along with our local businesses. So,
and Emily, even if it's not in the local store, they can order it for you. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Emily, anything else?
Nope. Good.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's see, this last week I did participate in the league's budget workshop, and I think there's other options when you can participate in that. Very easy to do, right from your very own home. That was very beneficial, and I'd say for the ones that haven't been through the budget, there are some guidelines too going through the budget as far as the general report and such. I'm also tomorrow night at 5 o'clock via Zoom. We're having a follow-up discussion on the COVID. We had one in August. It's a joint between us and the economic development portion of the sustainability, since we're talking about the effects of the economy in their community. So there'll be representatives from the schools, the hospitals. I did send out an invitation to the nursing homes as well, just to kind of get a general feel for what's going on. And so I encourage anybody who wants to be in that. I believe that Chad set out a link for you for that. Then again on December 8th, Ward 5 election will be happening. The two candidates that we worked with will be on the ballot. So just a reminder for Ward 5 people, the place for voting will be at the courthouse. And then, like I said, we will do the workshop on November 23rd, work session, I should say, for discussion further on the economic development and any other else, downtown. Anything else that we might be having too.
Is the special election, are you able to vote ahead of time, or is it just one day only?
I believe it's one day only from what I understood. Chad, do you have a clarification on that?
There's absentee voting.
Hey, I did not hear you.
Paul Scott said that there is absentee balloting.
Ben Steiners will announce that when he has it set up.
I was only going by the news this morning that I heard on the radio, and it did not say absentee ballot, but
Sounds like the county auditor will announce that when he has it set up and ready to go.
okay.
Right. I think, when I asked the auditor what his intentions were, he said he'd like to have absentee balloting, but there wouldn't be a huge window for it because of the timeline.
I've got you. Well, I'm glad to hear about that. I just will wait and get more information as we come forth with that. So with that, stay safe. Thank you for your work. And thanks for the time tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.